Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our first attempt to start a podcast at South Carolina Student Loan. It's a long time coming, and this is certainly something that we're brand new to. So we're excited about where it is, but more excited about where it's going. Our idea is to help South Carolina families understand more about financial aid in our state, any current issues that might be affecting financial aid, and also getting to know some of our colleges in and around the area. The financial aid offices are a key access point to our students and families, and we want to make sure that you all know who they are, what they do, and how they're here to help. So, um, first of all, I'll tell you, I couldn't think of a better start to this than to have Dr. Samantha Hicks join us today. Good morning, Sam. How are you?
I am doing well. It's a Monday morning and it's already busy, so I'm doing well.
It is, man. I'll tell you, I appreciate you hanging out with me a few minutes. I This is a tough time and a busy time, even in the best of worlds, for you guys in financial aid. So I know I'll be mindful of the time that we take from you, but I think this will be very important to families. So I appreciate you joining.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Sam, I'm not going to be able to say Dr. Hicks.
That's okay. It's okay. You
Okay.
can call me Sam.
All right, Sam and I have gone back a long while. I had made some notes here. Sam decided I won't tell him how many years we've gone back. That's too telling. So anyway, we won't go into that kind of detail. But Sam, um, listen, she is unbelievable at what she does, has an enormous amount of financial aid knowledge, has been around for quite some time. So we've definitely got the right person here to handle the topic today, but also kind of push us through our first podcast. So thank you so much. Um, so our topic today is very simply FAFSA simplification, the free application for federal student aid. Um, you know, for those listeners or those people that are coming through on the recording later on, if you've had a conversation with a financial aid officer, a school counselor, if you've turned on the news, you have probably heard someone mention the free application for federal student aid in the process. So, Sam, maybe I think what was supposed to be a process to make the FAFSA more manageable, to make it simpler, it just has not gone well. We've seen many delays, errors, and questions due to changes. So maybe let's just start with understanding the FAFSA. Like, why? What is it? What was it? What is it supposed to do, Sam?
Sure. So the FAFSA is, like you said, it's the free application for federal student aid. And I often tell folks that, sometimes there's a door to going to college. I am a first generation college student, come from a low income background. And so when I told my parents that I wanted to go to college, they kind of laughed at me because they could not afford to send me. So the door was essentially closed to me because I did not have the money. If you don't know, college is quite expensive. Just the sticker price by itself is pretty high. And so the FAFSA is kind of the form, or what I call the key. It is the key to unlocking the door of getting money to be able to go to college. So that form is really important. Students and parents fill it out. And it helps do what we call a need analysis. So it helps to estimate what your financial need is to be able to determine what financial aid the government can give you, but also many schools use that to determine what financial aid they can give you. And some scholarship organizations use that as well. We know that it's very important. We know that students who fill out a FAFSA are 5 times more likely to actually go to college. So that's the reason that filling it out is so important.
Thank you so much. I'll tell you, I don't have kids, but I do remember a time when I was completing the FAFSA myself. And, you know, way back when that was a paper process, 7 or 8 pages long. It truly was a horrible, time consuming process. And I think so many parents today remember that time when the form was so long and it created such a headache, to complete it. I think we all agree that a simplified version of the FAFSA was needed. I think it scared some people away from it by seeing what the process was. So, the idea of simplifying the FAFSA is a good idea. So I say all that to say this, like, what was supposed to happen, man? And like, what went wrong? I don't, I'm certainly not built on bashing a process or anything like that. But I think we can all agree that there's been a huge hurdles in the FAFSA simplification process. So tell me a bit, what were we trying to get to, and what went wrong there?
Sure. So, yeah, I think the end goal was a better process, a more streamlined process. And what really got me excited about FAFSA simplification, actually, I watched an admissions webinar, and the admissions folks were very excited that they could have a high school sophomore who could essentially now know what kind of financial aid they would qualify, because the need analysis formula and all had changed as well. So they were very excited about a simplified process where students, essentially, if they knew their parents' income and they knew how many people were in the house, they knew if they qualified for grants or not. And so that was exciting for me. And then we got to the rollout. And so kind of the first shocker to all of us was that normally the FAFSA is available in October of every year. With this current year's FAFSA, it was not available in October. That was kind of the first place we got off the railroad tracks, which is a delayed FAFSA. And so the FAFSA didn't open until December, and they called it a soft launch. The Department of Ed called it a soft launch. And so students would maybe be able to access it for a couple hours, and then they came back and couldn't access it again. So we had a little bit of a bumpy launch of the FAFSA, but by January, many students were able to go in and fill out the FAFSA. The problem is that we lost from October to the end of December in time of students trying to submit a FAFSA. So that was one kind of hitch. The second kind of big news was that schools, which normally get FAFSAs a couple of days after they're processed. So here at our institution, we pull in FAFSAs twice a week. And usually if you do your FAFSA, it gets processed in 1 to 3 days. The school pulls it in the next week, and they can start giving you financial aid offers. We send our financial aid offers typically in January timeframe. We're pretty early in the state of South Carolina. But we found out at the end of January that we were not going to be getting FAFSA information as a school until March. So students could do the FAFSA, but the school was not getting anything to give financial aid packages out until March. So that was a big thing. We also had some students who could not fill out a FAFSA. So students whose parents may not have a social security number, or fall into a certain category of a mixed status family, they were not able to fill out the online form. They were encouraged to do a paper form, but they were told, the Department of Education, and to this day, they're still not saying when they're processing those paper forms. So that was kind of a mix. The website, schools not getting financial aid packages out was the big shocker. And then for anybody in the enrollment process, that May 1st is typically the national enrollment deadline. And so many schools did not have their financial aid offers out by May 1st. So schools started to have to push back those enrollment deadline. We pushed ours back till May 15th. And so the schools are taking a hit in enrollment, and the question's becoming, are students, where are they going to college, and are they going to college? I think that's one of our concerns, is students who are having trouble may have just given up in the process. So
yeah, Sam, one of the things you and I talked about offline here as we were joining was the impact that it has to students that really, really need the additional help and the additional support. South Carolina Student Loan, we're kind of mission driven to the South Carolina residents here in the state, and we are a lower income state, lower FICO credit scores. Rural South Carolina first generation students are a large population of graduating seniors that we see here, and I can't help but think that this is probably impacting those students the worst. You'd mentioned that we've seen drastic delays in implementing. And had mentioned that I was having a conversation last week with an analytics person that takes a look at the FAFSA, and we've seen huge decreases in the number of families that aren't completing it this year right now. And we're getting pretty late here in the game for, especially for a graduating high school senior. One of the things that I know is when they leave high school, it's kind of hard to get in contact with them again. So what is your advice for the family here in South Carolina that may be thinking of not going through the FAFSA process, or they've just seen problem after problem after problem and believe that maybe that process is something that they don't want to do?
Sure. Yeah. And we're kind of hearing two things in our office. One is, we have heard so much going on with the FAFSA that we're just waiting for all the kinks to get worked out. And so my message has kind of changed recently to say, for many students, all the kinks are worked out. You need to go ahead and try to submit the FAFSA. We know in a normal year, many students leave so much money on the table because they don't fill out a FAFSA. And so I encourage every family that's thinking about going to college, that's sending their student to college in their first year, at least, even if you don't think you qualify, at least do the FAFSA one time. I would encourage every year, but I know some families don't want to do it for if they're not going to qualify for anything. But for this, with everything that's changed, especially this year, I'm encouraging families and students to try to do the FAFSA. If you are running out of, if you're, we have some students that the only way they can get access to computers and internet is at their high school. And when they graduate, they don't have that access. We have some folks who've been trying and not making much headway. My advice is to reach out to a financial aid office, and I'll offer Coastal Carolina University's financial aid office, even if you're not attending Coastal, which I know that's a big promise, but I will offer that because there are folks at these colleges that are really passionate about helping you through these, even if it's something that we know is an issue. And so, for example, we knew for a while that students may have made a mistake on the FAFSA and could not go back in the website and correct it. They have fixed that now, but for a while we were working with students who said, I did a FAFSA, I forgot to put Coastal on there. I want to go to your school. What do I do? And we had ways that we could work with them to give them an estimated financial aid experience. We'd pull them into the office and say, pull up your FAFSA, let's look at it. Best case scenario, worst case scenario, here's what financial aid we're talking about. But just being in touch with those students, some students and families I've brought into my office and said, let me see what you're looking at. Some of the workarounds, there is a FAFSA issues page that's on the federal website, studentaid.gov. And it has a list of workarounds. So for example, a student might have to delete their FAFSA and then try filling it out again. And so some of your schools are very well informed about those and can help you navigate those. My best advice is to just reach out to somebody at the school and say, hey, I need help. Because that's what we're here for. That's, we actually love doing that and love helping our students. And so don't get discouraged. Even if we can't make it work, because it's maybe one of the open issues that there's no resolution yet, we have some guidance that we can give you until that workaround is available. So,
yeah, one of the things I'll mention, our products, our programs don't require the free application for federal student aid. So what I would say is this: I've never, in the many years of promoting the loan products that we have I ever looked at someone and said, you don't need to complete the FAFSA. There's, I think one of the things Sam will agree to is that even if loans are going to be the only aspect or the only avenue or pathway to make sure that you get some of the aid that you need, take out the federal student loan in the student's name first, and then supplement that with something like a private loan like South Carolina student loan offers. I say that because there's so many different repayment opportunities. The rate's low on the federal student loan in the student's name. So, this is certainly not a plug for us. It's a plug for why you should complete the FAFSA and reduce some of the borrowing. I think there's also, for many people, I'll give another example. If you're going to one of our private colleges, in the state of South Carolina. In order to receive the South Carolina tuition grant, you have to have completed the FAFSA. So once again, there's free money that's out there that people are kind of going to leave stranded if they don't go through the process. And you're exactly right, Sam. I've known financial aid officers, directors in the state of South Carolina for many years, and have had the opportunity to work with you all in financial aid nights and parent nights around the state. And so many of you have been so nice to families that says, if you don't even know where you're going, just give us a call. And you know, the other thing that I would mention is probably easier to give a financial aid office a call in May than it is in August. So
Yes.
the longer you wait, the harder that process becomes, I would imagine.
Yes, yes. So in a normal year, summer is kind of our peak season. And so usually we're doing new student orientation, summer school, getting geared up for the fall. And so May is kind of that sweet spot where you may still be able to you'll be able to get through later. It just, your wait times may get longer, the response times may get longer. So it's probably much easier to get in touch with us now.
Yeah, and it's worth the wait. I'd tell
Yes.
you, you know, there was years ago I was able to help with some registrations. We're not offered the opportunity to do that very often anymore. But you know, whether it's a long line 15 years ago or whether the hold time is 5 or 10 minutes, certainly when we're talking about this type of important process and how much money can be impacted by the completion of it, certainly hang out online and make sure you're holding out until you get somebody. Speaking of, Sam, one of the things that I'm fortunate enough to be in the know with some of the financial aid directors around the state. And I kind of feel bad for you, to be quite honest with you. For most people that don't know it, financial aid office has a process for these 3 months are very difficult. And even in a perfect world, it becomes a situation that you can't staff. You never have enough staff for these 3 months. So what is this doing to your staff? You know, it's already not easy. You know, what's it doing to right now and then the upcoming remainder of the summer? Are you guys hanging in there?
Yeah, you know, we're trying. And that throughout this whole thing, that's been kind of what I've been sharing with our administration is I am very concerned about my staff and their workload over the next couple of months. Summer is, you know, we've got statistics to back it up. Summer is always crazy for us. And, you know, with taking what is essentially 11 months processing time, that's usually what we have from October through August to process financial aid in a given year. We're compressing that all into just like 5 months. And so long hours, we're trying to offer flexibility where we can. So work from home, that remote work seems, you know, flexible schedule seems to be working well. I try to feed them as much as I can. I feel like food motivates them
Cookie,
sometimes.
man. Yeah,
Um,
that's right.
but they, you know, honestly, my staff, they're very they're a little bit frustrated, and it's not that they're the workload they can handle. It is the kind of questions. So not being able to help students. That's what's really frustrating to them. I do feel like we're now at a good place that, you know, now that students can fill out a FAFSA, now that they're processing and sending information, we're in a much better place than we were back in March, where they can offer that help and answer those questions. But you still run into some situations where you're like, yeah, we're just going to have to wait for the Department of Education on this. And that can be frustrating for a family to go through. And it frustrates our staff because at the end of the day, they want to be able to help students. And so
Yeah,
they're hanging in there.
I think it's like anything else. When it's out of your control, it starts, but it can snowball a bit. You know,
Yeah,
I've always said I don't mind taking the blame for something
right.
that I did or didn't do. That's no problem. But if you're waiting on someone else to do it, I would also mention that I've heard a comment early on in this process back in March was, and I won't even say what federal department this comment came from. It was basically, well, you know, the solution's probably going to be that financial aid offices have to work overtime. And I got out of my desk and walked over to my CEO's office and said, you know, Trey, I don't think they understand that they work overtime in summer when in a perfect world.
Yeah.
I get emails from you guys at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night consistently. So we're pulling for you. I would just ask families and students that are going through this process with problems, again, reach out, but understand what you all are what you all are going through as well. And I think if we all work together here, I think there's a solution. It sounds like we're in a better place. And I hope if people get nothing else from this, I hope that they can understand that from October to now, we are moving forward. There are better things that should promote the fact that they should go in and complete the FAFSA. So, just one last thing. If we have students and parents listening, I'd mentioned before, I can't think of any reason to skip out on the completion. Do you have any last tips or tricks to offer families other than what we mentioned about being patient, if you will, and follow up with your office?
No, just, we just do the FAFSA. And the only other thing that I'll say is my best piece of advice is if you have a question, please ask it. No question is too dumb. I ask a lot of questions. And so some people are afraid to pick up the phone and call and say, well, I don't want to, I'm not sure if this is something I should be asking. But ask that question. If your school did not move their enrollment deadline, or they moved it and you still don't have a financial aid package, pick up the phone and call that school. Some schools are being flexible. And so they can work with you on a one-on-one cases, and you can call and ask that. You have the right to do that, and I encourage you to do that. Again, if you have any questions about your financial aid package, if you have any questions about the enrollment process, pick up the phone and call the school. That they have people on staff for that, and they're waiting and very passionate about helping you through. So that would be my best advice, is just to ask the questions.
You got it. Well, I'll tell you what, I've listened many times that says you got to keep these things brief so that you can have people hang out to the end. So that's it. The only thing that I would mention is look up the contact information for these colleges. Take Dr. Hicks, take her opportunity of reaching out to Coastal Carolina University if you can't think of anywhere to go. Contact South Carolina Student Loan. Our contact information will follow up to the end of this, and Sam, we'll put your website out there, make sure that people can see the good things, not only that Coastal Carolina is doing, but obviously the opportunity for you all to help some of these families in South Carolina. So hang in there, man. As I mentioned, it's really good to see you. I hope here in a few more months we'll be hanging out and we'll be in a good place, and we'll be looking back on it and everything has kind of evened itself out. So thank you very much for joining.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Sam. Take care.
Thanks.